Greetings and welcome to the Bowling Green First United Methodist Church. We hope that you enjoy what you're about to see, and you can find us on the corner of Broadway and Church Streets at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Or you can find us at bgmethodist.org and on Facebook at Bowling Green First United Methodist Church.
I always love when you get to the end of a scripture passage and it says, "No one dared to ask him anything else." You can tell he's got him cornered there when he does that. But you all heard during the children's sermon, I asked the kids what a face palm was, and you all know what it's that moment when you cringe because you know what's coming next, or the story you just heard just makes you kind of feel real disgusted. What's going on? It just is crazy, it's silly, it's absurd, or it's ridiculous, or it's cringeworthy is the best term I can come for. That natural reaction we have sometimes we hear something, we go, what do we do with that? Nowadays it's hard to get that online, like here on social media or Facebook or Twitter or something, and you can't physically demonstrate sometimes when you read something that someone says and you just sort of go, really? You can't do that. So instead, it has developed this new way of doing that. We're going to use the hashtag. For those of you that are of a certain age, that's the pound sign. I'm not sure why they changed that. That's what I always do it as, was the pound sign. But somewhere along the way they changed that. It's become a hashtag, and it'll get put at the end of or in the middle of a statement that someone is making, and a lot of it's meant to say, it's a one way of saying, "Are you kidding me? Really?" It's silly. It points out the silly, the ridiculous, or the crazy things. And one of the great things about Scripture is that oftentimes I can almost see Jesus wanting to put, if he were writing this out, he would put a hashtag on there somewhere. Or you just want to see him, just look up and just kind of go, again, really, you're doing this to me. Whether it's Peter putting his foot in his mouth again, or in our story today, the Sadducees and the situation that they're raising. I heard people chuckling as Julie was reading that. Because it's a crazy thing that they're asking of Jesus in there. Now, we have these passages sometimes that we just don't know what to do with. That we come to and they sound crazy to our ears. We're like, how do we deal with this? There's several different ways we can do this. We come to one of those crazy passages, and we can ignore it. That's oftentimes, kind of the easiest way we do it. It's like we just don't pay attention to that passage. It's why sometimes you'll hear someone read a passage of Scripture and go, "I didn't know that was in there." Well, that's because preachers all over skipped over that for a long time, and we don't like to preach on it because we don't know what to do with it. There are sometimes we look at it and say, well, this is what the tradition says. So-and-so, insert the name of a theologian or a church father in here, says this passage means this. And we go, that's all the farther we take it because we don't want to deal with it. So we look up, as Methodists, we'll look up and we'll say, well, this is what John Wesley had to say about that. And John Wesley had something to say about everything. So we can always find something he says in response to it. We can go that way. Or we can take that passage maybe a little bit more seriously. But if we're going to take it seriously, that also means that sometimes, you've heard me say this before, we've got to take out some of the religiousness that we have shoved into Scripture at times. We try and take it so seriously that we almost miss the point of what's going on. And this is one of those passages. This came up there several years ago. I was part of a group of clergy that got together in Higginsville, Missouri. Once a week we get together and we study the lectionary. If you remember, the lectionary is for every week of the year. There are 4 scripture passages: an Old Testament, a Psalm, a New Testament, a Gospel reading, and then a New Testament reading that are on there. We would study these passages, and precisely because then we would challenge ourselves on these places that we didn't know what to do with to try and find something to do with them. This passage came up one week. And here we were, there was a group of UCC pastors, me, another Methodist pastor, and a Catholic priest. We're all sitting in there trying to figure out, what do we do with this? Well, one of our guys, who at this point, we didn't know this, but he was just a year off from retirement, he piped up and he said, "This reminds me of a story." Now, when Steve would say, "This reminds me of a story," we would all sit up and pay attention because we knew that it was either going to be very, very deeply profound, or it was going to be very, very deeply silly. Oftentimes it would be both. And so Steve said, "This reminds me of a story," and then he began to tell this story. And he said, "There once was a woman who was married to a banker. Well, they had a few happy years together, and then he passed away. And so, a little bit of time passed, and she got married a second time. This time she got married to an actor. And again, you can probably know how the pattern of this story is going to go at this point. They had a few happy years together before he also passed away. Well, now that she another few more years go by, and she gets married a third time, this time to a preacher. And they have a few happy years together, and then he passes away. Now she's, a little bit older, maybe retirement age or so, and she gets married a fourth time, this time to a funeral director. They have a few wonderful years together before he passes away, and then she joins him, not too long after that. At this point, their family gets together for her service to figure out, what do we do? What do we put on her tombstone? And pepperoni and anchovies is not an option there. Okay, I heard a few people laugh at that. I had to remember who I can tell that joke in front of, because that's a really old commercial at this point. But they try to figure this out because she was happily married to all four of these men. They wanted to make sure that was recognized in all of this, and because they were this one big, happy, messy family. They had kids, they had grandkids, they had great-grandkids, they had step-kids, step-grandkids, step-great-grandkids, they had nieces and nephews, and all of them. They were trying to figure this out. The day comes for the funeral, and they look at the tombstone, and they figured out what to put on there, and on that tombstone it was written, 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and 4 to go.
Had to do that, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to do that, I know. The problem was when Steve was telling this joke originally, we didn't know it was a joke. We thought he was being serious about this, and then he drops that on us. We are cracking up in there. I think the people in the next room over from us were just trying to wonder what was going on. So I'm sitting there, a couple of us are writing this down because preachers don't have original jokes. We just, we rip them off from other people whenever we find them. And so we're writing this down saying, we're going to use this. Now, we didn't know that Steve actually had given us what we needed to figure out this passage. Because at one point, once we all stopped laughing a little bit, I looked and go, "That's crazy. That's an absurd story." And Steve looks around and goes, "Yeah, it kind of is." And then we all kind of clicked in our heads. We went, this is an absurd story, just in general, of what they are doing to Jesus. Because these guys come up there and they are setting out to try and trap Jesus out. Now, I'm a firm believer in that old saying that says there is no such thing as a stupid question, with one caveat. The one caveat on that, you can have a stupid question if you don't really want to know what the answer is. These guys didn't really want to know what the answer was to that question. It starts out, our passage that Julie read for us this morning starts out like this. If I can get it to, oh yeah, I always forget, I skip over this. I couldn't come up with a good image for this on my own, so I just photoshopped away badly. But they start this story out, they say, some Sadducees who deny that there's a resurrection came to Jesus and asked. This is the point when Luke writes this, where as we're reading it, where all the bells and sirens and everything should be going off saying, oh, hold on, there is something coming here. They are setting him up for something. Because what Luke is saying, they don't care about what Jesus is saying or teaching or preaching. That's not at all why they're asking him this question. They're trying to catch him in something. We're getting to the latter part of Luke's gospel now, and they are, and the Sadducees and other religious leaders, they are scared of Jesus. Because he is teaching and he is preaching things that they don't agree with, but they can't find any fault with, because they have tried this before. They have tried to catch him out before, and they are always on the losing end of this. Jesus always is catching them in the trap they're trying to set. So they think they have this worked out, where they raise this crazy situation to Jesus. There's just enough truth there to make the situation plausible, because it is Jewish tradition that if a woman marries a man, they don't have any kids, and the man dies, then it falls to a brother then to marry her and have kids for the brother's family, for the first husband's family. That's how they carried on the family lines, and so that's how that was supposed to work. So they raised an extreme but plausible example with 7 brothers in there. And this one wife. And so they raised this whole thing up, and they asked Jesus, now who's she married to? Jesus' response kind of is one of these. Like, really? You're asking me this question? That's not really the question you want to ask. He kind of goes on for a bit, but basically he said it doesn't matter, because in the resurrection, things are going to be different. And then he goes on to take on their real question. He points out, Moses, Isaac, Jacob, Abraham, they all believed in the resurrection, that there was going to be life after this world. So that's really what you want to know, and he demonstrates to them that, this is a thing. At least he gives them enough information where they can't arrest him, they can't charge him, they can't take him into custody, they can't do all of these things they wanted to do to him to get him off the streets and out of the way of all of these people who are listening to him. In fact, even a couple of them looked at him afterwards and said, gave that great answer, says, well, you responded well to that. We can't argue with you on that one. Because they know that they've been caught. But here's the thing that Jesus does. As we look past where we stopped our reading for this morning, Jesus calls them on it, and calls them on it in a very public way, because he is still gathered with his disciples and all the people who had gathered around to come and listen to him, come and listen to Jesus preach and teach. And he says this to me, this is verses 45 to 47. In the presence of all these folks, Jesus said to them, watch out for the legal experts. They like to walk around in long robes. They love being greeted with honor in the markets. They long for the places of honor in the synagogues and at banquets. They are the ones who cheat widows out of their homes. And to show off, they say long prayers. They will be judged most harshly. Jesus normally isn't one for making very strong statements like this, except to Peter a lot of times, because Peter is good, like I said before, putting his foot in his mouth, but also to the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the other folks who didn't really want to listen to the answer to the question that they were asking, who were really just trying to catch Jesus out. Jesus calls them on it. And he says, watch out for these folks, because here's what they're doing. Here's what they're doing. They just want all they want the places of honor. They want all the power and the prestige that comes with their position, but they don't actually want to do what it takes. They cheat the widows out of their homes. They don't actually want to live out the life that they are supposed to be living out. But they want all the good stuff up there. And Jesus says, watch out for them. Here's how you're going to know what they're doing. And calls them out on it. Calls them out on the ridiculousness of the whole situation they were trying to raise. For us, we find ourselves in a world where we are faced a lot of times with folks that seem to be in places like that, who raise crazy, ridiculous situations, or try and do things where maybe even they're the heads of religious organizations or other groups or businesses or whatever, and they may be genuine in their faith, but you ask the question that Jesus asked here, which is, who benefits from this? Who benefits from what it is that they are doing? And a lot of times it's, well, the people in charge benefit from that. Everyone else not quite so much, because you can't see, are they really living out those principles that they're claiming? For us, the challenge is that we're probably going to get caught at some point in one of these. I know I will get caught at some point in one of these, and probably later today, because I have a tendency to let my mouth open before my brain engages. I know it's going to happen. Emma's just grinning at me because she knows it's true. But the challenge for us is, how do we try not to do that? How do we try and do what it is that Jesus is trying to teach us to do and wants us to do? And to that we go back to just a few things. Jesus gives the greatest commandment is to love God and to love your neighbor. And Matthew 25, he says, that's the passage where the folks who had went to the prisons, who fed the hungry, and who gave to the poor and all that, where they say, Jesus, where did you see us doing this? And he says, they say, Jesus, how did we do this for you? And he said, when you did it for the least of these, you did it for me also. I heard one time someone give me kind of a shorthand of referencing that, said, the least, last, lost, lonely, and left out. If you can remember those folks, that is just the L's. You get all the L's in there. Those are who we are called to serve. And then in the Great Commission, Jesus says, go out and make disciples of all the world. Those are the main things that we are called to do. To love God and to love other people, to go out and to serve the folks that are in need, and to share the good news. Those are the things that we're called to do. So sometimes we're going to get caught in an absurd situation where even I'm going to have to sit there and look at my own antics and go, I can't believe I did that. And then remind myself, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? But also that's how we remember and how we make it through the ridiculousnesses of things that we are presented with. Sometimes we go back to the things that Jesus calls us to do. To love God, love our neighbor, to help those who need help, and to spread the good news. If we can get back to that point, that's the place we can start. That's the place we can build on. That's the place where we can find our solid foundation and know that God is there with us, helping us and leading us. And that's where we go to live that life, to make it through the craziness of the world we find, and to do and to be those people that God has made us to be. Let us go as we go this week to do those things, to find those places, to let go of the crazy things, to let go of the absurdities, and hold on to those foundational pieces, and let God lead us through all of those times. Let us go and do this in Christ's name.